In the bitter winter of 1789, when the high desert of the New Mexico Territory lay locked under a cruel and unrelenting frost, the wind howled down from the Sangre de Cristo Mountains like the cry of a dying wolf. Dry Gulch Creek had shrunk to cracked mud and thin ice, and every dawn revealed another ewe-stiff in the corral. Tomas Herrera, once a soldier of the king, now only a shepherd of sorrows, walked the fences with his daughter Luz and little Mateo, counting losses the way other men counted pesos. On the darkest night of that moonless December, when the cold was sharp enough to split iron, a ragged cry drifted up from the creek bed. They found a man crawling on blood-crusted knees, a Lenape named Elijah Crow, who had escaped the Comancheros after 2 years of chains. Hate alone had kept him alive across 500 miles of snow. Tomas remembered his wife dying outside a closed door years before, and swore the same would not happen again. Against every law of the frontier, where strangers were often shot first and buried later, they carried Elijah into Dona Inés's cantina and laid him by the fire. For 3 nights he burned with fever. On the 3rd night, when the wind screamed loudest, Luz sat alone keeping the fire alive. The others slept exhausted in the corner. Suddenly the room grew still, as though the storm itself held its breath. Luz looked up and saw a woman standing in the doorway, tall, barefoot in the snow, wrapped in a mantle the color of moonlit maguey. No tracks led to the door. The woman's face was neither young nor old, and her eyes held the quiet of high desert stars. "Do not be afraid, Nina," the woman said in the pure Spanish of Luz's grandmother. "I am sent because a door was open tonight that many would have kept barred." Luz found her voice. "Are you an angel?" The woman smiled the way dawn smiles on mountains. "Names matter little. I am sent to the places where someone chooses mercy when vengeance would have been easier. Tonight that place is here." She crossed the room without sound and knelt beside Elijah. Where her hand passed over his wounds, the angry red edges softened and the fever cooled. Then she placed something small and shining in Luz's palm, an eagle feather tipped with silver, light as breath. "When the Comancheros come," the woman said, "remember that even the hardest heart can still be turned, but only by a kindness it does not expect and cannot repay. Guard this feather. If death stands at your door and mercy seems foolish, let the one who carries this feather step forward first. Heaven will do the rest." Luz tried to ask more, but the woman was already fading, leaving only the faint scent of cedar and rain on parched earth. The door had never opened, yet a single set of bare footprints led away across the snow and vanished at the creek. For nights later the Comancheros did come, 5 riders with American rifles and lances hung with scalps. They thundered to the cantina demanding the runaway. Tomas, Luz, Elijah, Dona Inés, and Mateo stood on the low wall, ready to die rather than give him up. The captain of the raiders, a scarred man named Diego El Cuervo, laughed at the handful of defenders. He raised his rifle toward Elijah, who now stood straight for the first time since his escape. Then Luz stepped forward, no weapon in her hands, only the silver-tipped feather held high. The wind caught it, and it blazed like a tongue of living fire. Something shifted in the air. The horses shied, and would not move closer. Diego's sneer faltered. For one heartbeat every man there saw, reflected in the feather's light, the face of someone they had loved and lost, a mother, a sister, a child taken too soon. Diego lowered his rifle. His voice came out hoarse. "My own sister was carried off by Apache 10 years ago. I never found her body." He stared at the ground a long moment, then spat to one side and wheeled his horse. "We ride north. This Indian is no longer ours to chase." They galloped away, and no one ever saw Diego El Cuervo on that road again. Years later, a quiet sheepherder with a scar across his cheek would leave bundles of firewood and sides of venison at the cantina door in the night, and right away before dawn. Spring came, green and astonishing. Elijah stayed. He married blues when the cottonwoods leafed out, and they raised children who spoke 3 languages and feared neither stranger nor storm. The silver-tipped feather hung always above the door. Travelers said that on certain winter nights, when the wind howled hardest, a tall woman in a moon-colored mantle could be seen walking the creek bed, leaving no tracks, pausing to smile at the light that always burned in the cantina window. And the lesson carried on the tongues of old men around campfires for 100 years was this: angels do not always come with wings and trumpets. Sometimes they come barefoot in the snow, looking for the rare house where a door has been opened to a dying enemy. When mercy is chosen over vengeance, heaven itself steps onto the earth for a moment, and even the hardest heart can be turned by a kindness it has no right to expect. That single open door, that single offered hand, is the only miracle most of us will ever be asked to perform, and the only one that truly changes the world.